Hello everyone, my name is Tao Li, and I'm a TL of Istio Security. Today I'm going to give you a demo about Istio Security related features, which includes MTLS, end user auth, RBAC, and monitoring. So I'm going to use a two-tier example. We have a front end, we have a back end. So from external end user access front end and front end access back end. So in this model, you can see that without Istio, right now there's no encryption, no access control, no monitoring. So once we have deployed the Istio, Istio will handle all the incoming and outgoing traffic for you. And as you can see that this whole line works fine. And also I want to show you that if we have an internal app, this guy doesn't have a sidecar, doesn't have an envoy, and this guy can still access backend and same to the front end. So the point that I want to demonstrate is right now we don't have MTLS enabled. So if we have MTLS enabled, you will see that this whole line still works because they all have sidecar. But the problem is from here, test will not be able to access backend and frontend because at this moment, once we enable MTLS, Envoy will require a client certificate, but this guy doesn't have. Okay, so let's take a look. In my service, you can see that we have the front end part and we have two backend part. Okay, one is detail, the other is reviews. So you can see that this is from the end user, you can see this whole page, okay? You can see this whole page. And once we also have another internal, pod deployed. So this guy is called a sleep pod. So this guy doesn't have a sidecar, but it can access the backend. So this is the backend. We'll try to call the backend. All right. So it works fine. And besides that, I want to show after I enable MTLS, you will see that this one will not work. And besides that, I want to show you that we have the stats monitoring stuff. You can see here for reviews, the destination can be specified through reviews or any other service. And you can see that we see some traffic here. So this is unsecured. Once we enable MTLS, you will see that there will be some secured requests. Okay? So now let's try to enable MTLS on both front end and back end. So ideally, we'll see this page will still work. But before that, let's take a look at what the policy does. Okay? So the policy does is for default namespace, which is a namespace that our front end and back end deployed at, the service will require the other side to send MTLS traffic. Okay? So what we'll see, ideally we'll see this page still work, which is fine. And but if we wanted to try this one again, remember this guy deployed in Lexi namespace, and this guy doesn't have sidecar. So the traffic will be rejected. When this guy tries to access our backend, it will be rejected because it doesn't have sidecar. Okay? So, and let's get back to the status. You can see here, we see some green traffic because MTLS right now is enforced. Okay? So we have demonstrate the MTLS. Let's next thing I want to show is a JOT. So end user auth. So sometimes we feel like MTLS for internal is not enough. Besides, we also want end user. We also want the end user to provide some access tokens sometimes. Okay, so that means we need to deploy another policy. Say end user need to provide a valid token, access token. Otherwise, I will not let you go through. So let's take a let's deploy this token first. Deploy this token policy. You can see that for product page, which is our front end, for our front end, it will require the peers, which is ingress in this case, the peers to have MTLS traffic, and also the origin will have the JOT. So with the JOT, the issuer is this guy, and this is the place to find the public key to validate the JOT. So since we have deployed this service, this requirement, let's get back to this page. Ideally, we'll see something like this, origin authentication fields, because this guy, the end user, wouldn't provide a validated JOT. So I prepared a valid JOT here beforehand. So this is a long JOT, and with this valid JOT, you will see the traffic can go through. So we have demoed the end user. The last one I want to demonstrate is about RBAC. So RBAC is for access control. So this one means sometimes you want to limit the access policy for, let's say, I only want the backend to be accessed by the front end, or I only want the front end to be accessed by others. So in that case, we need to do access control. So Istio RBAC by default the nature is denied by default, which means if I deploy Istio RBAC on front end and back end, nobody can talk to front end and back end anymore until you specify the policies. So I'm going to first I'm going to show you if I enable the RBAC on these two services, so the whole page will not work. Then I'll define some policy to access this front end, so you will see partially of the whole of the page. And lastly, I'll specify auth policy, access policy for the backend, so you will see the whole page again. So let's take a look. First, I will deploy Istio RBAC, enable, and let's take a look of the policy. So you can see here what it does is it will enforce RBAC on the default namespace for the traffic sent the destination to the destination namespace as default, which means for any traffic that try to talk to front end and the back end, we will enable RBAC. And once we enable RBAC, you will see here it says permission denied, handle RBAC permission denied. Okay, so now we want to specify some policies to access the front end page, which is a product page. Let's deploy it, and then let's take a look at what it looks like. So this policy defines the access role, says for get permission to the product page, and who will have this role is right now we use a star, which means any user can access the product page. Okay, so but we haven't defined the access roles for the backend yet, which means only part of the page will be available. It may take a while to populate the policy. Let's give another like a couple of minutes. And another thing I want to mention about is after this, I will define the policy to access the backend. Oh, here it is. You can see that we can see the partial of the page because after RBAC is deployed, we only specify the access role of the front end, right? We haven't specified the role for the backend yet. So you can see only partial of the page is available. The details are not available. Now let's deploy the backend access policy. And of course, let's take a look at the policy. So the policy defines the get permission of details and the reviews. So there's two backends, corresponds to one of each of them, okay? And who can have access to it? It's the user is product page, which is the front end, okay? So once we deploy this one, we will see this page, the whole page can be accessed again, okay? So that's pretty much about the demo. Thank you.